day you're doing this. Okay.
Good morning. This is Janet Garcia with Inspiring Radiance, and I wanted to introduce a new series that I will be hosting called The Truth Behind the Pain. It's a tabletop discussion, and I have two fabulous guests here today that I'll introduce shortly. I want to talk a little bit about what the series is all about and what we're going to be doing here today. The series is going to be focused on mental health and mental illness, which has a wide array, of different things. When we look at last week, we had 3 suicides in the limelight, and the reality is that there's actually 123 suicides every single day in the United States. And with that, with every completed suicide, there's actually documented to be about 25 attempts. So if we look at that number, that's over 1 million attempts in the US every single year. That number is grossly underreported due to a lot of shame and stigma behind mental health and mental illness. So not a lot of people will report it. They may do an attempt or several attempts, and then, no, it's okay. And so again, that number is grossly underreported due to the shame and the stigma of mental health. And we want to remove that stigma. We want to keep the conversation going. This is going to be an ongoing series. We will have different topics. Today, the topic of the day is about suicide. We'll be talking about how suicide has affected us and our lives, whether it be by friends, whether it be in the communities that we serve. So I want to go ahead and introduce my two fabulous guests, and I'm going to have them talk a little bit about why they decided to join the conversation. I'm going to introduce Faith James.
Hi, Janet. Thank you for having me. So, yeah, for me, when you first talked about creating this series, I wanted to be a part of it because, while I haven't been directly impacted in terms of, family or any close friends, it was such a shock to the system. And I think for a lot of us, it's a shock because it was such quote unquote famous and powerful individuals. And, I kind of see myself too as somebody who's, always on the go, type A, running, doing, all these different things. And to know that you have to stop and be aware that while we have the cape on, we think we're superwoman, but we're not. And no one's immune from, as you said, having, stress or mental illness or, mental health issues. So it was just a good pause for me to actually be a part of this conversation. So just to create that awareness around, sometimes we just go, and I know you're going to talk a lot about kind of overachieving people, right? So I just really wanted to participate, and if I can lend my voice to, pushing this discussion even further, then I absolutely wanted to be on. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. My next guest is Roxy. Would you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about why you felt that, you wanted to be a part of this discussion?
Well, thank you for having me. This is an important discussion, and I applaud you for bringing it out to the forefront. So many people are afraid to talk about it. And for me, I've had very close friends that they basically taken their life. And I think it comes to just having that conversation so people could know you have somewhere to turn to. There's so many vehicles that you can go to, you can talk to, you pick up the phone. Someone is here for you. And people need to know that we're so busy going. How many times do we take up the phone just to say, I'm thinking about you, are you okay? I haven't seen you, you haven't posted anything.
Right.
Or someone might post something negative. Why are you doing that? Is everything okay? So this discussion opens up to let people know there's so many avenues. Call someone, talk to someone, and I would love to be a part of that, especially with what I do, dealing with the homeless. A lot of the homeless are on the street because of mental illness, and we have to deal with it. It's tearing down our society, and I'm just honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are definitely honored to be able to hold this space to open this discussion. One of the things that I think that a lot of people combine mental illness and mental health together. They think it's the same thing, and the reality is it's two completely different things. With mental health, each and every one of us struggle with mental health. It could be, getting a divorce and you're struggling with, picking up the pieces. It could be, having a new baby and you're trying to figure out how to be a new mother, how to, go on with being who you are, and also, that new mother role. It could be, the teenager who is stressed out because of schoolwork and, going off to college. And so mental health is something that affects each and every one of us. And so we have to open this conversation. I think that the more we stay silent about it, the more it hurts us all. You know, and of course, mental illness is a completely different thing. Mental illness is something that is a biologically, it's a chemically, they have a chemical, not difficulty, a chemical imbalance. Yes, sorry, I think of the word for a second. Chemical imbalance in the brain, and it affects their mood, it affects how they feel, it affects their ability to function. And that is not something that they can just get over. You know, I hear that in society, you know, okay, you're depressed, well, get up, get over it, go do something. The reality, it's not that easy. You know, so a lot of times, of course, therapy and medication, combination of those two is the most effective treatment for that. And the reality, even with women, you know, I am the CEO and founder of Inspiring Radiance, and we specialize in women's mental health. And the reality is that 1 in every 8 women will experience depression at some point in their life. And so that number is huge. And if we don't open that conversation, if we don't start talking about it, how many more people are going to continue to suffer in silence? You know, every year we see the suicide rates going up. Every year we see the suicide attempts going up, and you know, more people struggling with mental health issues, more people struggling with mental illness. And so that's what this is all about. It's really about, you know, acknowledging the truth behind the pain. It's about acknowledging that, you know, we can't stay silent about this anymore. We can't continue, but this is something that we can prevent. And so the more that we reach out, the more that each and every one of us, you know, plays a role in that, we can continue to prevent this.
Yeah, that's actually really good sort of delineation between the two, right? Mm-hmm. So mental health is sort of, when you talked about depression, is like some people may not even know that they're going through a depressive state or on a path to it, and just to be able to know what some of the triggers are, some of the cues that, you know, oh, you're being a little bit more antisocial, you're not going out as much, you're not feeling as, whatever it might be. I think it'd be good to let everybody know, like, what are some of the signs, what are some of the early signs, because like as you said, we all go through, so we all here go through mental health issues, but what does that really look like, so that when we see it, we can, you know, as we like to say, nip it in the bud and not let it then foster.
Yeah, so some of the symptoms are it usually has to be present for more than 2 weeks for it to be considered a depressive episode. But it could be irritability. You know, for some people it's depressed mood, but for some people, other people it's irritability. A lot of times in like children and adolescents, you'll see it as irritability, like just this extreme irritability. Anything just kind of sets them off. And of course, it has to be, you know, more than that 2-week period. It could be, you know, difficulty sleeping, whether it be sleeping too much or not getting enough sleep. You know, kind of that restlessness. It could be thinking about suicide. It doesn't have to be an attempt, but it could be thinking about it, having that suicidal ideation, really thinking about, you know, not wanting to be here. That could be some. There's also, you know, that when you start to see a decline in hygiene, when they're not really taking care of themselves, not really, you know, not really having, I guess, the energy to really put the effort into taking care of themselves. So those are some of the common symptoms. That's kind of usually where it typically starts. You'll see a weight gain, significant weight gain, or significant weight loss because they're not eating. You know, those are some of the most significant ones.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. So a lot of that, they're eating to kind of, for the emotional part of it, to really feel better, they're eating. So you'll see that.
With everything that has happened, you know, during the climax of this week, when in the news, they had a report which was very stunning to me, that this is the highest rate of suicides we have ever had in the United States. They said it is up by such a huge percentage. That means people are suffering. The economy seems to be doing good, but people are still suffering. Wow. So, you know, it's something, just hats off. It's something we really need to talk about because it's there. And I call it the silent killer.
Absolutely.
That's it. It's really, and it has such a negative connotation to it. People don't want to talk about it. When these things happen, they put it in secret. Everything's done in secret. It needs to be out there. People are suffering. They need that avenue. They need that venue that they can talk.
Wow. And then so to think that that's the option out, right? So like you said, the economy seems to be doing well. Everybody seems to be moving in the right direction, but that people get to that point where they feel that is the option. So it's like, what can we do? And I guess that's kind of why, you know, I wanted to be part of this conversation is, you know, what can I do? So I was sharing this story earlier before we got on air about this friend of mine who, you know, I've known now maybe about a year and a half. And, not like besties or anything, but, certainly close friends, we're good friends in person and on Facebook. And she messaged me the other day and said, I just want to tell you, thank you and such gratitude for you because, most people who know me more on my Facebook feed, I always send out scriptures and prayers. And she just messaged me and said that was so helpful to her and that, when she was struggling with, going through, feelings, either I think actual attempting potentially suicide, and just knowing that I was always there on Facebook with scriptures, sort of sending this message. And I wasn't intentionally, I had no idea she was going through that, but it was something that just kind of woke me up. And of course, right away, I was like, oh my gosh, you need to take the message. Don't forget, don't stay alone. Janet Garcia, who says Women's Mental Health, is there to help you, because it scared me, and so to know that it's going up, what can we as lay people do to kind of help? Like you're saying, I was telling you, my friend Stacy posted on her Instagram a picture that just said, just be kind. And so, I think my pledge is to, spread more kindness. How else can I be, more love in the life of people I know and those that I don't know, obviously, but it's really scary to hear that statistic.
But you know what, too, you touched on something, and I just have to say it. People don't understand words are powerful, whether they're said or whether they're written in any type of form. Mm-hmm. And if you put out negativity and someone is on that break, they'll take it that it's for them. It might not even be for them. You could be having a bad day. You could be having a bad day and you just decide to vent, and they can take that personally. Right. So we have to be careful of what we say when we're sitting at that warrior. I call people keyboard warriors. Yeah, because you can do anything you want to do, but you're behind the screen. We need to be careful of what we put out, because what you put out is affecting someone, and you could catch someone right on that edge. Yeah. And you don't know how just saying, my goodness, I think I posted yesterday, have an amazing, wonderful day. And I got so many, thank you. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to have a good day too. I wasn't feeling my best, but I wanted to encourage someone. And I think that's what we have to do, because we are in the social media. That's all that it's about. You have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's so many I don't even know about. I guess I'm getting older. But it's taking over our lives, and it's going to get to the point where people are going to feel bold to just put it out there, and it's gonna cripple a lot of us. Well, a lot of them already do. Yeah. Where I feel that bold, as you put it. But as you were talking, I was just thinking, I'm literally thinking we really need to be our brother's keeper, right? Yeah. From the good book, we absolutely have to be our brother's keeper. If suicide is going up, and I think I read something where it was the number 10. Cause of death.
And second in adolescence.
That everybody needs to be shocked by that. Like, and it's not, for me, it's not even about, yes, obviously the tragedy with 3 celebrities, kind of, shocked everybody who's listening back into awareness. But I'm just thinking now on a day-to-day basis, again, with my friend who messaged me and saying thank you because I was thinking suicide, and just thank you for being in the economy. That shocked me so much. I was like, what? Wait a minute, this is going on around me, and I had no idea.
Absolutely. And so just how you mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that can prevent. So there are, of course, because it's ever changing now, the typical person who is, committing suicide, there isn't a typical person, It could be the person who has everything and who's stressed out, and it could be the, the lonely, depressed person as well. It's almost like on a continuum, it's so different. So 3 of the things that have been proven to prevent, one of the things you touched on is the person having a strong sense of self. And so we have to really work on building up, our young people and, building up, other people. And so, whether it be, sending out those positive things, or, if somebody does something that you really enjoy, it's going back to, giving that positivity back to them.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That's one of them. The second one is family. So someone who doesn't feel connected to family is more likely to commit suicide. So we think about the different adolescents here in the community who committed suicide. Even though the parents thought they were connected, they really weren't. They were on social media. There was a lot of that, and so families are becoming disconnected because all of our adolescents are spending all their time on social media. And so it's really about figuring out how to bring them back, whether it be, setting more restrictions on those, on, social media for my kids. As on school nights, 10 o'clock, the Wi-Fi shuts off, the phones shut off. So even if they have their phones, so even if they have their phone, they can't use it at night. Of course, now my son is 18, so that's changed. But as they were younger, when he was younger, it would be at 10 o'clock that would shut off because, I don't want him at all hours of the night on his
That's a great tip. People need to hashtag that, shut the Wi-Fi down.
Shut the Wi-Fi down, and the phones will be programmed. So even if he puts in text messages, he couldn't call, during the school night. He doesn't need to. He needs to be sleeping.
Nice. I like that.
And so again, there's a lot of talk about, having dinner as a family. A lot of families don't have dinner together. And that's super important. Having dinner as a family and really connecting more as a family. So whether that be, put the phones away, getting out, doing things with the kids, and even adolescents. Adolescents, if it's a second cause
of them to them, it's stimulating to them. When talking about that, I had to smile because when the family gets together at my mom's house, she has a basket. And right before we sit at the table, she's around with the basket. You better put your phone in there. And she sits it down. She says, if it's going to irritate you, shut it off, put it on silent. If it rings, don't even get up. And when you're sitting at the table, everyone's mind is just off of their phones. It's that connected point. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and see two people sitting at a table?
Yes.
No conversation. No conversation. And that's, like I said, it's taken over.
And that's what we're becoming a society of that, sadly.
No, so that conversation, you can say I'm hurting, but you can't say I'm hurting because we're too busy. We're too busy. We need to just connect and get with people.
And even when you think about it, I'll look up when I'm in the living room with my family, and it's like everybody's sitting around, and they're all on their phones, and it's like, okay, we need to put the phones away. We need to connect as a family because yes, we're there in the same space, but we're not connecting because we're all on our devices. We do make an effort to connect, of course, as a family, and I force my 18-year-old to get out of his room and come and have dinner with us because that's important for me, and that's important for us as a family to be able to connect and have that conversation about how your day was and things that maybe someone's struggling with. Because if the kid is always on the device in their room, as a parent, you're going to miss a lot of things.
True.
And so then that would be the third preventative factor, and all of these preventative factors are actually also for homicide as well. So for the kids who are going and shooting up the schools and things like that, this is actually a preventative factor for both. Because a child who feels disconnected will either one of two, act out or take their own life.
So what was the first again?
So the first was a strong sense of self.
Strong sense of self, and then second
is connecting family.
Okay, good.
And the third,
sure everybody can
absolutely. The third is connected to community. And so that, whether that be, it could be on a sports team, whether that be a church, whether that be a part of different things at their school, and so just being connected to community. And so I think that's so important, when we think about, back in the day with our neighbors, everybody knew each other's neighbors, everybody stopped, and, one of the things that I actually love about my husband, I don't do this, I go home and I kind of go inside, but it makes me more mindful of what I need to be doing, but he knows all the neighbors. He's always talking. He's out there, the neighbors will stop him, and he's such a social person that, they will stop him, and, he pretty much knows everybody, whereas I know everybody through him.
But,
that's
a good point.
And so it's just about that, we have to get back to that. Of course, there were a lot of things back in the day that didn't work, but there were things that were, knowing your neighbor, being able to, stop when you see. A lot of times we see kids who are, maybe messing up the streets or doing something. And so instead of, criticizing them, just being there for them and being that avenue for them, I think just, saying hello to them, I think that can make a big difference.
That's so good. I just have to recap it just so it sticks in my head. Number one, preventative for suicide and homicide, sense of self.
Yes.
Family, get connected to the family and get connected to community. So even if we took the sense of self, and that's why I was so attracted to you and your brand and your company and everything that you do, your practice is to have women develop that strong sense of self. So what's so we're okay, we on the surface could say, oh my gosh, yeah, we're really strong, but sometimes deep down inside, which is where the truth lies, is where you really need to get to. So what would you prescribe, or some things that if somebody say, I really want to boost my sense of self, how do we go about doing that?
So that's actually perfect. I'm actually doing the 30-day self-care challenge. Self-care is actually the foundation.
Okay.
So really taking time out of your day every single day to take care of you. You know, because as women, of course, we have this long to-do list. We have all of the things that we have to do, and we don't take care of ourselves. We tend to put ourselves last. And so when you're operating kind of from empty, you're going to be struggling.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And so being able to really take care of yourself, I think, is the first step. To take care of yourself, make yourself a priority, engage in something that you love to do. And I talk about it, mind, body, and soul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mind, you know, the things that we think, of course, the reality is if you're struggling through that, there's going to be a lot of deep, negative, dark thoughts. And one thing that I always tell women, because I work with a lot of women who are depressed, who have been through traumatic things, who have been through whether it be sexual abuse, domestic violence, or just had a lifelong things, you know, happen throughout their life. One of the things that I tell them is we can't go to the positive until we acknowledge the negative. And so, you know, we as a society just so people get over it or just think positive. And so if you're thinking, you know, I want to end it today, it's really hard to say, I love myself today.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to go there. And so I help them really acknowledge, you know, those words. And so even if it's scary things to say, even if it's, you know, I help them verbalize it and put it out loud. So maybe for women at home, it could be, you know, journaling it. You know, all of those negative thoughts. So it's one way of getting it from in here and to just kind of getting it outside of you. If you like to do art, you know, whether you know, maybe draw those dark thoughts. And so it's a way to just get it out. And so that's probably the first step. And then being able to transition. So it's like maybe think of one positive thing about yourself. So maybe you don't like yourself, but maybe you know that you're a fabulous mother.
Right.
And that's something that you can hold on to, and then you can add on to that. And I tell people, you know, do Post-it notes all over the place. So maybe you start with one Post-it note, and maybe it's a week before you can think of another positive thing. Then you can add on to that, and you keep adding to it. Before you know it, you're going to have a wall full of Post-it notes.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love the self-care. I mean, that's, you know, this is your, third
series? Yes.
Third series in the self-care and before, and that's why I'm so glad I'm sitting here, because I just want people to, I had a friend, she said to me, I posted something on Facebook, and another friend who's also in sort of, wellness, and I put, I'm working on, I'm worthy, and I'm enough, I'm going to meditate on those. And this friend responded and said, oh my gosh, that's so good to know that you, Faith James, also have to work on that. And I thought to myself, wow, like we just have to be so open and so honest. Like it's a responsibility now that I feel, because people look at me, right, and think, oh, you're wonderful, you've got it all together, everything's super fantastic. Obviously not at, you know, the highest levels when you're talking about like a Kate Spade who sold her company for $2.4 billion. You think we're all set now. We're not all set. So I feel too like I want to make sure that I'm participating in that truth of there are days when I'm not all set. There are days when I just want to shut it down and just like, you know, go lay down and just stay in bed and just be one with me. And but I know that always there's like, you know, more that you need to do to pull yourself. So when you started the self-care, I was like, oh, this is good for me, because I'm notorious. I will work till 2, 3, 4 in the morning on a client project, and oh, you'll do your stuff later. Oh, get your nails done later. You know, go do your meditation later. Do your walk. You know how I struggle to take a 15-minute walk. Struggle to take a 15-minute walk. So for me, this is a great conversation to say you've got to get one with yourself first and foremost, and not put in client work and work. That's all great, but if you're no good to yourself, then you can be no good to anybody else. So I love that.
Absolutely, and that's the truth. You know, it's our relationship with ourselves is at the core of everything that we do, whether it be business, whether it be relationships, whether as a parent, all of those things. And so if you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, you're going to struggle in certain areas of your life. And so that's why I am so passionate about that, pushing that, because that has to come first before anything else.
Right. Yeah. And it's such a different concept, because you think to be selfless is kind of what we've been taught, right? Yeah. But it's actually a little bit of a reverse. Like you've got to put yourself first. And I always use the example. That's why on the plane they tell you put your mask on first before you help the child. It's not to be, you know, mean or critical. It's like, because if you're passed out, the 4-year-old's certainly not going to know how to work the oxygen mask.
Absolutely.
Another thing we have to look at also, we talk about being strong. And through this week, we have realized the strong people that we have seen TV, movies, all of that. They struggle. So we need to look at the ones that we have friends that are strong. I had a friend just this week, and I knew something wasn't right. So I drove to their house. They weren't home. I parked my car right there. I wasn't invited. I parked right there until they came home because they needed to talk. I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look out for the strong ones, because all of us are strong, independent women. But when we have so much on our plate and we have so much coming at us, it kind of depletes us. It drains us. The battery is empty.
Yeah.
And if we're not recharging properly, we're going to get in that situation. We can't help ourselves, and we can't help anyone else. So we have to learn now, just like they said, you have to learn how to separate, stop, do that self-care, do that self-help, because so many times we forget that. And that's something I love to tell people. And I am so guilty of that. You said stay at 4 o'clock. I was up till 4 o'clock this morning because I had stuff I had to do. And then I'm drained, I'm tired. You know, so that's a lesson we have to learn. And I love how you do it every month. I forget sometimes. But I go up there and I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything. And I said, okay, I'm gonna backtrack today and I'm gonna double it up today. So
but you know what, even for me, I realized too that even if you just to close your eyes and say, you know, I love myself, I'm worthy, I mean, you know what, just even doing that is good for the soul, for the body, for the mind. So don't like beat yourself up if you don't actually get to go do the 15-minute walk.
Every time I pass the mirror, I'm like, oh yes, keep going. Rejuvenation.
Absolutely.
That's it.
There you go.
If you don't love yourself, who's gonna love you? You can't love people. My mom and my dad used to tell me that. You can't. My mom especially, growing up, you know, in that West Indian culture, she says so many women love men. You can't love someone 100% if you can't love yourself. You can't give it. You can't give it if you don't have it. And that's something I grew up knowing. So loving myself, that's just an automatic. But sometimes I do get depleted. Sometimes I do get drained. Sometimes things happen in life that can get you to your lowest, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. And then that's when you have family, like you said. It's when you have good community. And that's when you know your self-worth to start giving you that kick. Come on, Roseanne, get going. This is not it. So you, like you said, it comes together and you do that.
Yeah, that's really good.
I love that you brought that up, because I'm going to share just my own struggles with my mental health growing up. You know, as a young adolescent, of course, I struggled with loving myself. That is kind of why that led me to the path of what I do today. You know, I really struggled. And when I turned 15, of course, I was looking for my value externally, and so I got pregnant. And that really, I think, was like a big moment for me to kind of make that shift. You know, after I had my son, I knew that, you know, that isn't what I wanted to teach him. I didn't want him to struggle with, you know, feeling good enough or, you know, not feeling secure in who he was. So I knew that, of course, I had to make that change in order for me to be able to demonstrate, you know, I could say all the words that I wanted to, but if it wasn't what he was seeing in action, he wasn't going to believe that about himself. And so that kind of really began my journey of loving myself. And so many times I think we don't realize what people are going through. You know, just when I put this series out, The Truth Behind the Pain, I had about 20 people reach out to me about their stories. People in the community that I had no idea had struggled with, you know, suicide attempts, had somebody in their, you know, family commit suicide, and, you know, them trying to pick up all the pieces. And most of the time, of course, it being a very silent journey because there's still that shame and that stigma. And so, you know, we have to remove that shame and stigma. The reality is that we all struggle with mental health. And so there has to be that open conversation. And when you think about, you know, the stigma of mental illness, you know, there's so many, each and every one of us know somebody, whether it be our family members, whether it be a family who struggles with mental illness. And so I guess that's why it's so important for me to keep that conversation going, because we all are touched by it at some point in our lives.
The stigma is bad because, like I said, when you were talking earlier before we began, I had 2 friends, and even when it happened, they couldn't get their service in the church. No church would refuse. Every church refused to have that. So it starts in the community. Yeah. That's why I said this. What you're doing, it's so needed. We need to let the community know. Think of somebody. Somebody wants to say bye-bye. Somebody wants to do something. Wow. And if we're keeping it that you can't say your last goodbye in a church, what is that? You're really making it say, oh my goodness, that's the unforgivable. It's not. You know, we need to really open that up. We need to let the community talk about it Because of that, now you put that stigma on that person. Now that you put it on the
On the
family,
family.
you put it on the children, and it just keeps going on, and you don't know how that one little act can affect everything else. So the community really needs to, get together. So if this happens, how do we address it? How do we deal with it? Because you're not doing it for the person. You're doing it for the family, the ones that are left behind. You already have that stigma behind them. So now how can they move forward? But how can you move forward if the community has now cut you off? There has to be that dialogue and that open communication.
And I think also to take away the judgment, because I remember when I first read about Kate Spade, and that in fact she had, it was allegedly reported she had written a note to her child. And so, me with my, non-expansive, unenlightened to mental illness brain went, how could you write, like, as you're writing the letter, aren't you thinking, okay, well, but the fact is that if somebody's going through, as you say, if it's going through mental illness and it's a chemical imbalance, they're not logical. They're not thinking logically at that point. And so, it's easy for the outsiders to go like rub their hands and go, oh my gosh, I would never do that. And so judgy and putting shame on it, as opposed to like, what is the understanding that we need because you think about it, a mother who's so completely well off in her child to say, I'm going to leave you and I'm writing a note and let you know why, and then I'm out. It defies understanding. So clearly it's a medical condition that we just need to be more understanding of. It's just like if somebody had, diabetes, you're not going to go, how could you? How could you have that? There's a difference in terms of how we don't shame somebody for that. Or if somebody has, fibromyalgia, we don't shame them for that. But, so I know I put my hand up and said, I'm going to work to not, because though I can't understand it, I have to understand the difference, which you said at the top of the show, the difference between mental illness and mental health issues. And so it's not something that is, you can just judge people for it. So, but anyway, so I'm just glad to have been a part of this conversation. I really, it's opening for me. I'm going to make sure I take my 15-minute walks more frequently.
And not only that, let's hope that somebody out there that knows that you are here.
Well, yeah, we should definitely let people know that you're here for this.
And, one of the things that I think I hear a lot in the community, and it does hurt to hear it in the community, is there's not enough mental health services in the community. And sadly, there's not. If there is services, people can't afford the services. And so I just wanted to share one of the things that I do in the community. It's not something that I, share that much, but I actually, if someone has been a victim of a crime, whether it be sexual abuse, domestic violence, I'm actually provided with the state, so meaning if they've reported it, and they have a police report, they can qualify for victims' comp services. And what that means is they will be paying the $0 for their counseling for that first year.
Oh my gosh, you should tell them that. Yes. Where do they get that?
So the state of Florida. So again, if they just had if they were just a victim of a crime, they would report it. They can usually they're assigned a victim advocate, and they will help them fill out all of that paperwork. Or they go to Safe Space, like if they've just been a victim of domestic violence, and they will help them fill out all that paperwork. Once they're approved, they can bring their approval letter to me. I bill the state directly, and they pay $0 for that. And so there's a lot of services that the community doesn't know about.
Is it on your website?
That is on my website.
You should tell them
my website information. So www.janetgarcialcsw.com. And I will post it in the comment section so you guys have access to that. So again, there's a lot of times I think that people don't know about the services in the community. So I always tell people go to 211. That will kind of open up all of the different doors. Call 211 and they'll tell you all of the different services in the community. So there's so much services, but again, when someone's in that dire state where they're lost and they're not looking, so it's up to the family members, it's up to the friends, it's up to everyone else to kind of help them navigate that system.
So the 3 things we should look out again. Let's remind everyone.
The 3 things that we
should look out for.
Oh, the preventative factors.
Yes.
So strong sense of self, strong connection to family, strong connection to community.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to do like the shameless plug for her. If you if you want to, because sometimes people go, well, I don't love myself, so how do I, you don't know where to start. It's just because it's not been your natural makeup to love yourself. So come see the lovely, the fabulous, the warm, sensitive, caring Janet Garcia. That's what she does so eloquently, so beautifully. And I think, you know, just even a little bit that we've done together with the self-care challenge has transformed my life. I think I said this to you before, you know, it kind of gave me this awareness that, you know what, maybe I can't get everything in my shopping cart organics, but, you know, I love myself more enough that's like, you know what, why not get the organic eggs? You know, why does everything have to be, you know, for New York, no frills, or for Pavlov? Why does everything have to be, and it's like, no, I'm going and I'm deserving, and I am going to go get organic eggs. And so just participating in that community, right? So it's a community within a community,
Absolutely.
but it's a community of women that you've assembled together who are just very caring and giving. So if you just even want to start there, jump in the 30-day challenge with us and just, you know, see how everybody else is doing the self-care. So I just want to make sure people know that that's what you do, that you're here for women, that you focus on the number one thing that is the first thing for preventing any sort of mental health illness or suicide is a strong sense of self. Janet Garcia is a person to help you get there.
No, for sure. And definitely the challenge, I think, even motivates even myself. You know, I, of course, started my journey years ago, and I've been doing self-care on a daily basis. But there are days, just like Martha said, there are days that we get so busy and we have so much on our plate. So I do my self-care in the car, whether that be putting a meditation. So, I mean, there's opportunity to do self-care where you're not actually having to take time out of your schedule. So if you're driving, if you're, you know, when you're getting ready for bed, you know, I'll play something while I'm brushing my teeth or whatever that would look like. So again, you know, even if it's 5 minutes, if you can dedicate 5 minutes, we all have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes to taking care of yourself. It's super important.
We're worth it.
Absolutely.
We're worth it.
All right.
Absolutely. So I think we are done for today. We're going to wrap up, and I just want to tell you a little bit about the next one we're going to be holding probably next month. And I haven't set a date yet, but I will put that out. The next Truth Behind the Pain is going to be focused on adolescence, really being able to talk about mental health and the mental health struggles within high school, within, you know, all of the struggles that they're going through. So be sure to look out for that. And I thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank my fabulous guests. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you. All right, we will see everybody next time.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Come see Janet. Okay, I tried to.